Welcome, viewers, to today's broadcast. Today's date is August the 4th, 2024. My name remains Paul. I've titled my broadcast as usual, Migrating to the US, Useful Tips, Part 6B. In my last video, I had started dealing with the process leading to the issuance of K1 non-immigrant visa to the applicant to come to the US. The K1 visa, like I explained in my last video, is actually called the fiancé visa. It is usually applied by and for an American citizen. It's applied for by an American citizen seeking to bring into the country his or her foreign fiancé. In other words, the American citizen has a relationship outside of the United States, and the relationship has gone on for quite some time, and later they decide to marry. And so the K1 visa is the appropriate route for the US citizen to bring into the US his or her foreign partner into the United States for the sole purpose of getting married. And that marriage must happen within 90 days of the foreign partner coming into the United States. And so one of the very important requirements is that before filing that application, the foreign spouse or fiancé must have met with the American citizen in that foreign country at least once in the last 2 years. And so once that requirement has been met, then the US citizen is now at liberty to begin the process. And so to start that process, the US citizen must file Form I-129F. And the three government agencies, US government agencies, who would and always handle such an application remain the Department of State, the USCIS, and of course the US Customs and Border Patrol agencies. These three agencies will cooperate and to making sure that all the necessary checks, criminal checks, are done, all the necessary information about the fiancé, the foreign fiancé, and of course the US citizen. They must go through all the criminal records and to be sure that both are in good standing before such an application can be commenced. And the foreign fiancé will be required to go through some fingerprinting, just like the US citizen as well. So it's called biographic or biometric information. And so once all of these checks are done, the US citizen will now commence the process of inviting his or her foreign partner to join him or her in the US for the sole purpose of starting a family. And that would mean, getting married within 90 days of the foreign fiancé coming into the country. And so to commence that process, the US citizen will have to file, like I've said earlier, Form I-129F, which is a petition for alien fiancé. In other words, for the fiancé that lives overseas, that Form I-129F is to enable the American citizen bring that foreign fiancé into the country for the sole purpose of getting married. Now, that form I-129 has instructions, and so it's usually advisable for the American citizen to have familiarized himself or herself with those instructions, or usually it's also advisable for the U.S. citizen to get the services of an immigration expert or attorney. Now, that would make the whole process a lot easier for him or her to understand and to follow. And so the U.S. citizen will have to understand what the instructions say, and it's usually advisable to get the services of an immigration specialist or attorney before proceeding, so that those instructions can be explained to the U.S. citizen before the process can fully commence. And so the form would usually that form I-129 is a form from a U.S. citizen asking USCIS agency to recognize the relationship between him or her, that is between the American citizen and the foreign fiancé. In other words, that form I-129 is sent to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services Agency, and that form will ask that agency to recognize that relationship. That is what that form I-129F is supposed to do. It's a petition to the government filed by the American citizen for and on behalf of the foreign fiancé whom he or she wants to bring into the country for the sole purpose of getting married. Now, that form I-129 will have documents attached, and that form, of course, will be reviewed by the USCIS to see whether all the documents or the evidences are there. Okay? Now, in some cases, the agency will require more documentation, and they will send a letter to the U.S. citizen and request that more information, more documentations be sent in. Now, if that form goes on to establish eligibility or good relationship between the American citizen and the foreign partner, now that form gets approved by the USCIS agency. And now what that means is that once that recognition has been given, now it now authorizes the U.S. citizen to proceed with other requirements regarding bringing the foreign fiancé to the U.S. So, and on the other hand as well, if the form is denied, it could also be denied, then the USCIS will also notify the American citizen why his or her form would have been denied. So the reasons for the denial will also be communicated to the U.S. citizen in good time. Okay? Next, if the form is approved, that is form I-129 is approved, the USCIS will now send that form to the National Visa Center in the United States. That form will be transferred to the National Visa Center in the United States. And so once the National Visa Center gets that form, now it means it's entering into the second stage of that application. The filing of the petition is the first step. Now, if the form is approved, the petition has been approved, now it gets into the second stage. So we'll go to the second stage of that application now. Now, the National Visa Center forwards the approved form I-129F to the U.S. Embassy or Consulate, where the foreign fiancé will will apply for a K1 non-immigrant visa. This is generally the U.S. embassy or consulate where the foreign fiancé lives. In other words, once the Form I-129 has been approved by the USCIS and sent to the National Visa Center, the National Visa Center will now forward that approval to the U.S. embassy or consulate where the foreign fiancé lives, because it's in that consulate that the foreign fiancé is going to attend the interview for the K1 visa. So that form is now forwarded to the foreign country where the U.S. embassy or consulate is and where the foreign fiancé resides, because it is at that U.S. embassy or consulate will be where the foreign fiancé, that's where he or she will attend the interview. Okay. Now, the U.S. embassy or consulate in the foreign fiancé's country will not notify the foreign fiancé about the Form I-120. They will not communicate it and to inform the foreign fiancé that it has been approved, and now request that he makes a formal application for a K1 non-immigrant visa. So once the foreign fiancé receives that information, now what happens is that now in most cases what will happen is that the foreign fiancé will now have to go online, go to the U.S. embassy, consulate, or embassy in his or her own country and now fill out the Form DS-160 for the K1 non-immigrant visa. So that form has to be filled out, all the necessary fees paid, all the documents required attached, and then sent out. So immediately the U.S. embassy in the foreign fiancé's country receive that Form DS-160, then they will go ahead to now book an interview date based on the approval received from the petition filed in the United States by the American citizen on the Form I-129F. Okay? So the DOS consular officer will now determine at the interview whether the foreign fiancé qualifies for the K1 non-immigrant visa. So once the foreign partner has filed in the DOS, the DS Form 160 for the non-immigrant visa, K1 non-immigrant visa, now of course it goes through the normal processes and the interview date is issued, and then on that day, now if the foreign fiancé does well at the interview, of course it is approved. On the other hand too, it could still be refused if the visa officer determines that relationship is not genuine. That interview can still go wrong. That K1 visa can still be denied. Okay? So it is necessary to bear that in mind, that it could still be denied. That's the thing. So the foreign fiancé must be able to prove with the U.S. citizen that their relationship is genuine. And in a way, and how to prove this will be that in the past 2 years they had met once in that foreign country, and within that time when all of this started, they had been communicating the pictures they took while the U.S. citizen visited the foreign country, all those pictures, emails, WhatsApp messages, and sometimes even the FaceTime calls. So all of those proofs, all of those evidence, they will now come in during the interview. That is what the visa officer we'll be looking at. So it is necessary that as the process goes on, now the U.S. citizen and the fiancé must be, keep their relationship active by talking all the time, sending gifts, sending WhatsApp messages, sending emails, just to show a healthy relationship. Very, very important. And also the pictures they would have taken together. They would have taken pictures together when maybe the American citizen visited the fiancé in his or her own country, and then both of them would have snapped some pictures together. Or even the American citizen would have met some of the fiancé's family members while there. So all of those pictures will come in handy, and they are very, very useful at this point. And so the consular officer at the embassy will determine whether the foreign fiancé qualifies for the K1 non-immigrant visa. Now, if the consular officer grants the K1 non-immigrant visa, it is actually valid for 6 months for a single entry. So in other words, if the consular officer finds that, okay, the relationship is reasonable, then he or she will go on to approve the K1 non-immigrant visa, and it is usually for 6 months. And the foreign fiancé is allowed just one single entry, because both the foreign fiancé and the U.S. citizen, they have claimed that they're going to get married. So the fiancé from overseas has to just come in one entry, just one, because it's also assumed that they'll get married within the first 90 days of the arrival of the foreign fiancé. And so if the consular officer does not find that relationship to be bona fide, in other words, it's not genuine, now the consular officer will not issue the K1 visa. And instead, the embassy will return that Form I-129 to the USCIS in the United States. So if the Department of State returns the Form I-129 to the USCIS as it is expired, now, that form will remain expired. However, if it's denied, there's also a possibility of a retrial. You can try again. You can reapply. But this time around, you have to be sure that you have straightened out all the issues that led to the denial in the very first attempt, or when you attempted it the very first time. Okay? So it's a tedious process that you must have to follow gently and be able to overcome it. And so, like I said, I am working on growing my page, and so I would wish and I will encourage you to share, to like, and to comment. I am on Instagram, I am on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on all the handles: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Okay? And so, like I said in my last video, because the information is quite lengthy, so I decided I'll be doing it piecemeal. Okay? So I need you to comment, I need you to share, I need you to like, follow me on the handles, follow me on Instagram, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. I'm growing my page, and I know with your support, the page gonna blossom. Reach out to me. You can send me a DM. You can call. If you have any questions to ask, feel free. You can send me text messages as well. I have my numbers on my email and my number. I have it on my Facebook and then on my Instagram as well. And so I would wish to stop because it's getting too lengthy and I don't want it to be too long, okay? Because I need you to digest the information bit by bit. And of course, the K1 non-immigrant visa is an very encouraging category. And if the due process is followed, believe it or not, you're going to come in and then within a very short space of time, because immediately you go through that wedding, immediately you come in that 3 months, and that marriage happens, straight up you apply for your green card immediately. You don't have to wait for anything else. And so it's a very encouraging category, and I wish that a good number of you out there would take advantage of this category. It's very encouraging. K1 non-immigrant visas, and also you can also bring in your, if you had kids together, children together, you can bring them in under the K2 arrangement. I will talk about that. I will also in my next video mention what happens if you fail to do the marriage within the 90 days. What happens? It has consequences as well. And this process takes quite some money and takes also some time. So it is necessary and advisable that you take your time to arrange it properly before you can commence. And so until I come your way again, I remain Paul. Please follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, please follow me on YouTube. Until I come your way again, I will be looking forward to reading your comments. I encourage you to share. I encourage you to like. Thank you, and bye for now.